Larry O'Connor sitting in for Chris Plant, and joining us right now, one of the greatest authors, one of the greatest pundits, one of the greatest commentators, and one of the greatest friends, Ann Coulter. Her new book, Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. Just in time. Ann Coulter, happy Friday.
Thank you. Happy Friday to you. I'm very upset with you for being out of town the week my book comes out. There's going to be a big party, and I could have done your show live. Now I'm going to have to come back to D.C.
Well, I am very upset about it, too, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on today. You can give a preview for people. The book actually hits August 21st, but, of course, everyone can pre-order it now. And I love the title, and I love the idea behind it because, I mean, listen, you've been talking about the left losing its mind for years now, before it was cool. But it really has sort of crystallized in the Trump era, hasn't it?
I've never seen anything like this before. I mean, I do have, surprisingly enough, a lot of liberal friends, and one of the great pleasures of my life has always been going to dinner parties or big parties and arguing with liberals. You're from L.A. Remember Yamasuro?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that was one of the funnest things. It was all kinds of...
Andrew Breitbart used to hang out there as well with that whole thing.
Organized by my friend Scott Coffer, who was a Hollywood producer, and it was lots of Hollywood people of lots of political stripes, probably like 50 people in that big room. And it was one of the funnest things. It was the first Friday of every month. It's done and defunct, so I can talk about it now. But we would argue all night until 1 in the morning, very cheerfully, over food and drinks and moving around the table and talking to lots of you. You can't do that in the era of Trump. It's over.
Yeah, it's true, and you see it play out on cable news every night, certainly, in a very intense way. What is it about Trump, do you think? I have a theory. I'd like to hear yours first.
Well, before I answer that directly, to amplify the point you just made about cable news makes it worse, I was just thinking that watching, in fact, one of my very good friends, who I can't get together with anymore, on a liberal network last night, and thinking... No, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. And I think this every time I watch a segment. I mean, usually I'm just laughing at them, but when it's a friend of mine, I want to email him.
Sure.
To tell him you're missing a big, fat, obvious point. And if only these networks would allow one pro-Trump person on, just one.
Yeah.
Maybe once every 24 hours instead of having, a cot and an oxygen tank for that what's her name, Jill Winebanks. You know who I'm talking about. She's on every single show on MSNBC because she was on the Watergate.
Right. She's their hero now to give the perspective.
What's her name? Jill something Winebanks?
Yeah, I forget as well because I'm more a CNN guy when I want to watch I want to do my hate viewing.
You don't know what you're missing, Larry. Yeah. Anyway, she is asked once an hour, every hour on MSNBC. Do you see any parallels to Watergate? One of my friends emailed me last week saying, hey, I have kind of an emergency, guys. I was watching MSNBC and they were interviewing so-and-so Winebanks, and they asked her if there were any parallels to Watergate, and my TV went down. So can you tell me what she said?
Oh, that's great. It is, by the way, Winebanks with a hyphen. You're right, Jill Winebanks.
Okay, it is Jill Winebanks. Yeah. Okay, fine.
She's
probably being asked that question right now on MSNBC, but they go off on these wild goose chases that really, oh man, you're really wasting an awful lot of time on a castle built on cotton candy if you just would allow, okay, I would say one sane person on your networks, but in the interest of comedy and furthering discussion, I will change that to one person who voted for Donald Trump. I mean, there aren't that many of us, I admit it. I went to the...
well, not many of us who do cable TV, at least, yeah.
No, just barely enough to elect him president.
Competently, too. That's the other thing. It's one thing about having a pro-Trump person, but how many times do you watch the quote-unquote pro-Trump person and you start screaming, saying, you're not helping! You're not helping at all!
No, I know. I describe that in my book, the 3 requirements to be a, quote, conservative on cable news.
Yeah. Well, actually...
And why they hate Trump, that's a good question, because lives. It really, part of it is, as I was just saying, what you said. They actually do not know what our argument is, and that's why they should read Resistance is Futile.
Yes.
It's a very quick description of it. But there's also, I would say two other reasons they really, really, really hate Trump. The number one reason has absolutely nothing to do with policy. They just think he's icky.
Yeah.
And you see, that's where I think like minds could come together.
Because there's some agreement on the icky factor now and again.
On the ickiness thing,
yeah.
They're not going to get a strenuous argument from me. It's when you get to his policies that I'll fight to the death.
Exactly.
I wish he would.
It's funny. I remember I was on, so do I. I was on Morning Joe once talking about MSNBC, and they started throwing all of the icky stuff at me. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, he's obnoxious and he's crass and he's boorish. He's from New York. You guys live there. You know what they're like. But can we now talk about what he's planning on doing? And they don't want to have that conversation.
Right, or if they do, I think our next step is we trick liberals into defending something like pedophilia by saying Trump is against it.
It has really reached that
really
point.
Their position.
It has reached that point.
What does Trump think? As I will go through, you are getting a little bit of a preview of the book here. As I go through in my book, positions they've held their entire lives. They just instantly adopt because Trump is on the other side. I really think at this point we could get them to defend pedophilia, or I don't know, you name it.
Well, that is it. The book is Resistance is Futile. It's officially out the 21st, but you can get it now as well. You should. She is Ann Coulter, #1 best-selling author, and I have no doubt this is going to kick butt as well. You are breaching into one of my favorite topics, and that has to do with never Trumpers. And I hope that you have a special place in your book, and in hell for that matter, for never Trumpers, because it is maddening to see people who for decades have held certain positions, and when the president is actually finally trying to carry out those ideas and actually put them into policy and get things done, they're actually standing in the way.
Yes, there's a lot of that, though I actually think, and again, this may not seem like I'm reaching across the aisle and trying to make friends.
That's so unlike you, Anne. You've always got the peace pipe going.
Although that is what I'm known for, of course. I'm starting to think that Trump is really exposing a lot of people whom I used to consider allies, and now I think, I don't really care that much about tax cuts if my fellow Americans don't have jobs. And, oh my gosh, this obsession with free trade. It's like a religion for these people. Okay, we've done that for 30 years. We've lost 20 million manufacturing jobs. Could we try protecting American industries for a few years? Let's just see how it goes. For something wild and crazy, how about the Republican Party do something for the working class and not Wall Street? Since Wall Street hates your guts, Republicans.
Ann Coulter is our guest. I agree with you on most of that, although especially when it comes to tariffs against a country that is an obvious bona fide enemy of our nation like China is. I don't understand why we need to be literally kowtowing to China.
Or Germany.
Germany's more complicated, but I get your point as well. The book is Resistance is Futile.
And by the way, when you're off, having pina coladas on the beach, the week I come to Washington.
It'll be Mai Tais. I'll be in Hawaii, but thanks for the imagery.
Damn you.
I'll be wearing a thong.
Well, Washington, D.C. is going to be way more fun that week because I'm going to be there, and I'm starting Monday night on Tucker.
Excellent, and I can't wait to see that. Oh, you and Tucker are always great together, too, by the way. And he is one of the friends that we can still continue to say, oh, okay, he's at least being somewhat consistent from where he is.
I was wondering who the 3 people were in Washington, D.C. who voted for Trump.
That is close to an accurate vote count,
I know them
actually.
all personally.
Listen, the president and the vice president yesterday made a big speech about the Space Force, and I immediately thought of you. Because I don't remember this being part of Trump's platform when he was running, and I don't remember him mentioning a Space Force when he came down that escalator in Midtown Manhattan. I do remember the wall, though.
You know the way to my heart. Yeah, no, apparently, and by the way, I'm all for the Space Force. It drives me crazy that we're wasting money on, illegal aliens and their health care, their feeding, their housing. The entire poor of the world is treating our country like a battered women's shelter. But we're not spending money on all the things the federal government does. I'd much rather have a space program than cut the Department of Defense in half.
Hey.
That's one of the things I now realize about the erstwhile allies who are now never Trumpers. This perpetual war thing, no, count me out.
I'm not against Space Force. I just want to prioritize it down one notch from the wall.
Yes, I could not agree more. But it looks like we're going to be getting to everything. Trump will be doing like street cleaning and a new way of issuing parking tickets before he gets back to his central campaign promises. I would also say about that, and this is a general point, about the entire Trump presidency. And apart from the fact that he's a Republican, as we have just discussed, one half of the country fantasizes about him being assassinated, once an hour. As soon as the next president gets in, anything that can be undone by Trump will be undone. So what are the things he can do that aren't written in the sand, that don't disappear like footsteps on the nice Hawaiian ocean you will be walking on when I'm in Washington?
Wow, it's just really under your skin, isn't it, Ann? I'm sorry. Next time you come with me.
Number one, Supreme Court appointments. But even that is only 30 years. The one permanent accomplishment is going to be the wall. You could pay for 6 space programs if we could just stop paying for illegal aliens. We have our own poor people. We have our own criminals. These sanctuary cities and anchor babies and illegals and a wide open. Oh, for Pete's sake, did the American people vote to have a free money sign on our border pointing toward 30 countries that are way poorer than we are, way more disorganized than we are? They're fleeing those countries. If we let them all come here, there won't be a country to flee to. Well, I guess we can try Canada, but that's kind of boring.
Ed Coulter, you've been saying that running on a wall and actually enforcing our immigration laws and clamping down on illegal immigration is a winning message for Republicans. You've been saying that forever. Trump is the first one to actually finally take you up on it, and he won. If that wall gets built, can you imagine what a winner it is when the Democrats, every single candidate, will be forced to campaign on the idea of tearing down the wall? Of knocking down the wall.
The ones who want to win, who don't live in Nancy Pelosi's district. You saw that Joe Manchin in West Virginia has already the first one, I think, Republican or Democrat in the Congress to come out and say, I support funding Trump's wall.
Yeah.
So he's way ahead of Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan.
Yeah, he's also running for re-election in West Virginia that I think went 40 points for Trump. So, let's see what happens the day after he wins re-election.
Well, okay, fair point, but he couldn't run away from it any faster than Trump did. This has been a pattern for 20 years now. When politicians need our vote, they promised to get tough on building a wall, on deporting illegals. Nobody's coming out for anchor babies and sanctuary cities. They just hope no one will talk about it. And for 20 years, the media has been quite compliant on that point. Now right-wingers and the conservative media are woke on the immigration issue, so we're not shutting up about it. But the point of them running on it and then betraying us. I mean, even McCain with "Build the Dang Wall." Remember that? Very famous campaign ad.
Oh, I play it over and over again.
President.
Yeah.
So we know that's the proof right there. They know it's popular. They know what the voters want. They just refuse to give it to us, and that's because of the donors. The GOP donors, and to explain quickly for those of you who do not follow me on Twitter, the donors want the cheap labor. The lazy, crap-ass farmers refuse to mechanize. Nope, we're going to farm the way we did in 1780. So they need just a never-ending supply of cheap labor. If they get amnestied, as they were by Ronald Reagan, well, great, then they're off the farm. And then we need a whole new supply of cheap labor. Same thing with people who run, well, really anything. The meat packing plants, a lot of the construction work. This is the rich turning a profit and externalizing their costs to the American taxpayer because we bear the costs in court costs, police costs, raped and murdered children costs, not to mention food stamp costs, housing costs, health care costs, schooling costs, blah, blah, blah. For anything else, when it's pollution, if a company is making money, they get all the profit, but they send all the pollution to us, and we get tuberculosis. Everyone acknowledges, no, you can't do that. You can't externalize your costs. We're going to tax you for this, or you're going to have to put a better chimney on whatever it is that's polluting. But in the case of cheap labor, oh no, the donors get to externalize all their costs. In any event, the donors want the cheap labor. The Republicans say, screw you voters. By and large, they do. That is to say, 98% of them. We know you want us to crack down on immigration, illegal immigration, anchor babies, sanctuary cities, and we're going to run on that, but then we're going to betray you. Now, the second wave, that's where they're corrupt, but they're also stupid because the one thing we should have been able to get out of the Donald Trump miracle campaign, the most beautiful campaign of my lifetime, probably in world history, since we're not getting a wall, that would have been the number one thing we're getting, is that Republicans, and I don't care, Democrats can take this lesson too, should have finally learned you have been being scammed by these political consultants. You don't need money to win. No one's watching commercials. They're not persuaded by commercials. What you need is popular ideas.
And Coulter. That was brilliant, as always, and I always appreciate talking with you. And I am sorry that I'm not going to be in Washington when your book debuts, but I will be reading it from those beautiful beaches in Hawaii. I'll have it.
You're going to love it.
I know I will, and I can't wait. It's Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. It's out August 21st. You can pre-order it now, and then when I'm back from vacation, we'll have you on, and we'll give that book a second little jolt there, all right?
I'll come to D.C. for you.
Thank you. I'll hold you to that. Ann Coulter, it's always good to talk to you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.